Alright, so here is the Raspberry Pi. It is a single board computer. It is running on an ARM V8 processor, 64-bit architecture. And so what it has is it has 1 gigabyte of RAM running at 900 megahertz, a 450 megahertz GPU, and a 1.2 gigahertz CPU, which can be overclocked to more higher frequencies, but it's just not overclocked on mine. I don't know why. Mine is having a problem overclocking. Like, it does not bring up the option. I'm pretty sure I probably got a model that just doesn't like overclocking, and it is a version, it's a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B version 1.2, and it was from 2015. This is probably just new old stock. And so here's that. I'm gonna grab another couple of cases you could put it in. This is a VLROS kit, retro gaming kit. It came in a VLROS box, which looks like this. They seem to make a lot of like different Pi kits and things like that. And I just got the retro gaming one. I didn't get it with controllers, because usually when you get controllers with these kits, they can get pretty cheap, and the quality just suffers from that, and they don't feel good. And so I just got one without the controllers, and then I bought my own controllers. I bought these Buffalo USB controllers. These Buffalo USB controllers, these work extremely well. They work on Android, Windows, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10, and more. I've gotten this to work on Mac OS and Linux and whatnot, and I'll show you what they look like. So here's one out of the two I got. They're about $15. They're Super Nintendo, and they have a cord that's roughly about 6 feet actually. 6-foot cord. It's USB. I also have this other game pad. It's a recoil pad. This is to play Super Nintendo. The D-pad feels trash though, but we're not focusing on that. We're gonna go to the next thing, which is SD cards. Now, this supports a very wide variety of SD cards. It supports up to 64 gigabytes of storage, but I don't know. I just remember that's what it said on the book right here. So building it all, in all, the kit costs $70. That's with an SD card, 32 gigabyte Evo Plus, and it had noobs installed on it. So I could get either a Linux distribution or a, or RetroPie, and I got RetroPie because I like retro gaming. Okay, so the first case I'm going to show you is like just some sort of random case you can get. This is a VLROS kit, retro gaming kit. It came in a VLROS box, which looks like this. They seem to make a lot of like different Pi kits and things like that, and I just got the retro gaming one. I didn't get it with controllers, because usually when you get controllers with these kits, they can get pretty cheap, and the quality just suffers from that, and they don't feel good. And so I just got one without the controllers, and then I bought my own controllers. I bought these Buffalo USB controllers. These Buffalo USB controllers, these work extremely well. They work on Android, Windows, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10, and more. I've gotten this to work on Mac OS and Linux and whatnot, and I'll show you what they look like. So here's one out of the two I got. They're about $15. They're Super Nintendo, and they have a cord that's roughly about 6 feet actually. 6-foot cord. It's USB. I also have this other game pad. It's a recoil pad. This is to play Super Nintendo. The D-pad feels trash though, but we're not focusing on that. We're gonna go to the next thing, which is SD cards. Now, this supports a very wide variety of SD cards. It supports up to 64 gigabytes of storage, but I don't know. I just remember that's what it said on the book right here. So building it all, in all, the kit costs $70. That's with an SD card, 32 gigabyte Evo Plus, and it had noobs installed on it, so I could get either a Linux distribution or a RetroPie, and I got RetroPie because I like retro gaming. So that's out of the way. Here's the case that I'm currently using. It is a Smart Pi touch case. It is touchscreen, and it uses this special little, like, here, if I can show you, take the back cover off. It uses a special little USB splitter. So the next case we're going to be looking at is a little bit of a, I don't know, it's a little bit expensive. It's the Smart Pi touch case. Now, you do have to have a screen with this, and it can go for upwards of $70 or more for the screen, which is touchscreen. So you buy the screen, that's $70. It's really expensive. And then you buy the case, which I don't know how much that is. I didn't get the case. I didn't check how much the case was. I think it's right around $20 or $30. I could be wrong. And then it comes with this splitter, and it comes with everything you need to put it together. All you need is a case and a Raspberry Pi. Now, how this works is you have your Raspberry Pi. Of course, you need your SD card in there. So what it does is it has a little screen, a longer screen extender in the Smart Pi touch case. And so what you do is you put that screen connector port, which is that little ribbon cable, into the screen connector. And then you take this splitter. There's a little micro USB slot right under here. Some of you might not be able to actually, I don't even know if you guys can see this, but you just plug it into the USB slots right here and right here, and then you just insert it. But since I don't have an SD card in, I'm not going to be plugging anything in. So it splits off into one micro USB cord thing, but with that, you cannot have just a 2-amp power supply. It has to be more. So your 5-volt 2.5 amps will not cut with this case. You need like a 3-amp or a 4-amp, which is not very easy to come by. So what I just use is I use this. I don't usually like to use the splitter, but I use that, and then I use this. I use a travel charger. You guys probably can't see that. I use a travel charger. This is a 2.4 amp, and this is a 2.5 amp. And they both could run the Raspberry Pi or the Raspberry Pi screen. But yeah, so that's what you could do. Now there's also, like, another thing what you could do is you can get like one of those power supplies that have 2 USB slots that are 2.4 amps, and you can do that, which will only take up one wall socket in your house. You can get those in many flavors of socket. And so yeah, next thing we're going to be looking at is the different OSs you can get. Now I have 2 versions of Raspbian, and I have the RetroPie. So I've got Raspbian, the older version of Raspbian from like 2017, and I've got a newer version of Raspbian for the Raspberry Pi Model B Plus that does work with the Raspberry Pi 3 and under, well, all the way to 2. These are just different versions. There's older and, you know, newer versions. Hold on, I can't pick up the SD cards. So I have this is the newer version of Linux, and this is the older version of Linux. And you can put Windows 10, but it's not a very, it's not a very powerful version. It's literally just for app development. But I have put Windows 3.1, Windows 95, and I'm trying to get Windows 98 to work on this. And that's going to be very difficult. I know 98's been done and 95 has been done, and 3.1 has been done. But I'm going to show you how to do it the easy way using RetroPie. And if you wanted to play like Windows games. And the one thing you're going to need is an ISO, or you're going to need a floppies of your OS. And I have floppies in my Windows 3 OS here I'm going to show you. So I got my Windows 3.1 discs, 3.1. They're all right here. And then I got my floppy drive, which is USB. My USB floppy drive. I think this also works with super discs. If I'm not too... Yeah, this works with super discs as well. That's why it's so thin. It also can do super discs. Actually, that does not make any sense. It does do super discs, though. I've looked at it. So anyways, yeah, you have your Raspberry Pi here, so let's boot into Linux, and I'll show you the newest version of Linux they have. Alright, so now that we've got it set up, the one thing that we are missing is plugging everything in. Now, when I plug everything in, notice how the Pi sort of, you know, looks like it looks kind of like that Dolphin computer that LGR reviewed. That weird Windows 3.1 tablet, or whatever, 3.11 tablet. It looks kind of like that once you plug everything in. Especially when you have everything, except with less failure. So we're going to boot into this new version of Linux. I'll show you how fast it boots. So it powers up first. Does the test colors. A little bit saturated since all my lights are on. And so it boots up pretty fast. Faster than my computer that I use from like, I don't know, 2012. It's not the greatest. I think it was top of the line when we first got it. So it does have internet. It does have a Chromium Web Browser. It has like a free Office that you can use. Here's like graphing and Excel. Here's like, I don't know, what is this? Like Microsoft Paint almost. Here's like PowerPoint. Here's something else. Here's basically the word processor. We have some games. We have Minecraft, pretty explanatory. We have Python games. These are just like weird games that you get free with it. Oh, it's a little bit saturated. Hold on. Now you can see it. Anyways, let's go back so I can show you. So we're on the desktop now. Got programming, Office, I already explained these, Internet, Chromium, games, Minecraft, and we got the Python thing. We leave as is. We don't care for sound. It does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. That's one thing I like. And we have these games that we can play. What we can do. This does not have sound. The case does not come with sound. You have to supply that your own. Headphones are highly recommended. And yes, I'm only using one power supply because I'm not doing any retro gaming. Retro gaming really takes up a lot of CPU power. So we've got YouTube. We can do Agario, but slowly, of course, because it's a Raspberry Pi. It is quad-core, but it's not very complex, and it is of the ARM architecture. It's also kind of slow. Uh-oh. We're having problems with the mouse. Hold on. Gotta plug it in again. There we go. Sometimes it just like loses power because the USB port can't supply enough. So it shuts down one of the ports. As you can see, there's a CPU meter right down here. The time, an eject button for any disks that are there. We've got a little home button. It looks very similar to Windows, so we're going to shut this down. That's pretty much it for today. That's all I have. You can also hook this up to a TV through HDMI or composite. Sorry, not composite. Composite, I don't know. Your pick. You also have to wait until the green light stops flashing. That way you know everything's saved. But don't quote me on that. That could just be like a booting like, I don't know, a light that tells you when it's ready to power down or whatever. So yeah, that's my Raspberry Pi thing today. Thank you for watching, and tune in whenever I make another video.